G'day everyone, it's SDS SuperCoach, providing SuperCoach content for you. Here to present the AFL SuperCoach trade desk for round 2, season 1, episode 2. And joining me as we get a new guest every week, I had to get the brains in, definitely. Not saying George didn't have the brains last week, but we had to get another layer of brains as well. And so joining me for episode 2 is Rookie Coach. Rookie, what's going on, Rookie?
Oh, mate, you're just setting a tough act to follow with George. You're going from one scale of brains to the opposite end of, you've gone from legendary status down to rookie status. But no, it's a pleasure to be here. Excited to get into the chaos and the carnage that has started our season off. And yeah, look at what we could be doing to maneuver around that this week.
Yes, well, this is certainly going to be one of the more challenging trade desk episodes that we hopefully ever have to do. So thought I'd get you on board for that. So basically the game plan for this episode, thank you all so much for tuning in. Before we get into the run sheet, sell yourself, mate. Well, you don't have to sell yourself. You've got that already. But tell us a bit about your channel. Where can we find you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find all the shenanigans on Rookie Coach AFL on X and YouTube. Again, very much not a beginner's guide per se, but just the journey of someone who hasn't been a SuperCoach for very long. This is only my 3rd year in, and just kind of adapting, seeing all the chaos, keeping up with legends like yourself, and going through that process. The mainstay of the channel is definitely the After Dark stream on Saturday nights. That's definitely been the fan favorite of last season. I'll be having Steve, yourself on in the coming weeks with Damo for Footy Mailbag, so I'm very excited for that one. But yeah, just come in, join in on the chaos. Come to join After Dark if you're up and about on a Saturday night. I guaranteed you won't be disappointed.
Absolutely, mate. And I'll tell you what, yeah, sometimes I need to find a way to get myself onto watching the After Dark, because sometimes your boy SDS can get a bit loose every now and then on the Saturday night. So, but when I do
Too busy
have
out the clubs.
yeah, I know. Well, definitely won't be definitely won't be as of late because of the current prices at the minute of everything. But so yeah, you'll probably be seeing me a little bit more in the comment section. All right.
Beautiful.
Into today's trade desk episode, we're going to have the quick fire yes or no's to kickstart Rookie for the recording. The main bulk is going to be the 10 most traded and most traded out players, but as well we'll be delving into other branches of ideas on what we look to do heading into this week. We'll cover up some injury news that hopefully most of us would have heard, but we can reiterate it. And we've got a couple of this and that. So usually we just do one, but because of this sort of situation, round 2, but just the amount of injuries as well, we're going to be doing a premium and a rookie edition of this and that. So let's get things kicked off, shall we? And just one more thing I will add. Any news that we get in between, we record on Tuesday night, you're seeing this on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, but any news in between Tuesday night and Wednesday afternoon, hopefully no more carnage, but if we get any news, me and Rookie will be in the comment section telling you how to react to certain injury news if any more comes in. So let's get that brain loading up, Rookie, with these 10 yes or no questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Tristan Cherry will reach 800K this year.
Yeah.
Jaden Short is an option.
No.
Watkins must come in.
No.
Going early on Murdoch was premature.
No.
This is the year to trust Shea Bolton.
Never.
Murphy Reid is the best non-rookie forward option.
Oh. Up for debate.
Joel Freyer becomes a topic next week.
Yes.
Where's the community overrated the new ruck rules?
Absolutely.
Trading in slightly injury-prone premiums need more thought now than prior.
Yes.
And last one, Reeves we consider next week. Ned Reeves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Happy with your answers there?
Yeah, pretty happy. I am very curious on the Reeves pick next week from your boys. Very,
Yeah.
very got a keen eye on Reeves.
Yep. Well, that could become an interesting plan. I'm sure a couple of starting primos will go down this week as well to ruin that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see because now he's off his. He's in the bye this week. Next week he'll be off it, heading up against your beloved Meows. All right, let's head into. I think we'll do a this and that now, and we'll do another one after the 10 most trade out players. So more questions up coming and ready for you, rookie.
Let's do it.
This or that rookie edition. So the concept of this, rookie chooses this option or that option as preferred trade-in options for the week. And hopefully we get a name at the end to land on as his favorite rookie option for this week. Just a heads up, there are a few of the obvious options aren't on here, but we can reiterate. All right, Lockie Doverson or Josiah Delina.
Delina.
Delina or Max Condogiannis.
Delina.
Delina or Bo Allen?
Bo Allen.
Bo Allen. Bo Allen or Zane Zakostelski?
Bo Allen.
Bo Allen or Harry Sharp?
Bo Allen.
Bo Allen or Phoenix Gothard?
Gothard.
Phoenix Gothard or Jake Rogers?
Still Gothard.
Phoenix Gothard or Chris Sherry?
Gothard.
Phoenix Gothard or Chase Jones?
Gothard.
Phoenix Gothard or Willem Dersma?
Oh. Dersma.
Willem Dersma or Braden Cook?
Dersma.
Final one, Willem Dersma or Jack Watkins?
Still Dersma.
Wow. All right.
Uh,
Can you talk us through a bit there? Because I think some really good signs were shown over the past couple of weeks with Willem Dersma. I certainly underestimated him. I'm not personally sure if you started or not. Talk us through a bit with Dersma and what you've seen.
Yeah, so I didn't start him. I was trying to move around some cash, make some more plays. However, it's been a pleasant surprise to see him perform quite well given the role that he has, which we tend to not really associate with high potential in SuperCoach. I just think when we think about rookies and we think about the purpose, so we think of sometimes fieldable scores, cash gen being the main predominant factor here. Yes, he's at an elevated price. However, I think the job security and the opportunity that ties to Dersma is greater than potentially any of the other rooks at the moment, because the other rooks like a Watkins and a Cook are really tied to other factors such as injuries for them to even have a shot. Now, it's not to say that they're bad options. Like you look at a Murdoch, came in, went nuts, unlucky with an injury. But for all those factors that don't exist with Dersma, it's just high draft pick. He's absolutely locked into that best 23 for these guys. If you need someone who's going to make cash, be it maybe slowly from the higher starting point, I think he's just going to get better as the season goes.
Yeah, and that's what makes Willem Dersma so valuable from a rookie perspective. We don't get many rookie options that have as strong job security as Willem Dersma. So job security is not a problem. And at pick one, they're just going to keep playing him through every single week. Even a pretty, sorry, should have checked. What's he projected? He's projected a 56, and that would make him $46,000. So certainly saves a few people, maybe some in the mid-price madness section, where there are players that are priced 50 80, 100K more and not scoring as well as a Willem Dersma. So, and you could almost build a case that Dersma could even have better job security over a couple of these mid prices as well, which makes him even more special. So, you have built a very strong case there, my friend. Before we move on to the most traded out players, Rookie, you did my homework for me. I did not write down the injuries just by accident. Could you go through some of the main ones?
Yeah, so some of the notables, and I'll just touch on the notables that really influence this week for selections. At Adelaide, we've had Callum Archie go down for 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring. We've also got Laird with the calf going down for 1 to 2. This is important to know for potentially Jones and Cook from a job security perspective.
Yeah.
While, yes, Cook was a little bit underwhelming last week, he definitely has a lovely break even and the DPP to become a very highly selected option for trade-ins this week. Jones is also one to watch, but he's 1 game behind, I believe. So you get to see him one more time before he's on the bubble. And then for those looking at a potential Worrell pick, he is a test with a bit of a calf concern this week. So if you're looking at a Worrell versus a Houston, definitely keep that in mind. From a Brisbane perspective, there's nothing too crazy to really look at that really affects anyone unless you own Dan Annable, who's out with a shoulder injury for 10 plus weeks. Harris Andrews is still out till round 5, so for big ZZ Top, the job security is seemingly still there, but he might be on borrowed time. Nothing really important at Carlton. For Collingwood, for those looking at Houston, Howe and Moore are definitely a test to come back in this week. Main concerns probably sit around Howe and does he fit into that back line and start sharing the kick-ins? Does this mean Josh Dacos can move to the midfield alongside his brother? Or do they throw Howe forward and do they let just Houston have full command of that back line? Some quiet questions really around the Houston, but I think relatively safe to still lean that way. The only real thing to talk about from Essendon, besides their entire club being in absolute shambles, is Redmond has gone down with a knee for 6 to 8 weeks. And Sharp is a test. So Sharp did have a really poor game, unfortunately. Got I think a 13-14 last week and then had the injury and spent the rest of the game on the pine. So Sharp's a test. So if you were considering holding, wait till team sheets. And the only prospect we have with Redmond is that does this allow an opportunity for Farrow to make way into the team for a potential downgrade option down the line?
I would have thought so. I think we're going to hear from that this week. I think he had the main monopoly in kickouts this week. This is something for a couple of weeks down the line, but I would expect Farrow to make his debut. I think he had 31 touches in the VFL as well.
Yeah, he had a pretty big game. From Freo, nothing too crazy, just a reiteration of Hayden Young that it is 2 to 3 weeks on that hamstring. Was running laps today, but didn't turn out well enough where they can really go to rush him back, which, given he's made out absolute paper, I would not worry about.
Sorry, with Hayden Young, sorry, I keep butting in, but
it's all right.
I wonder what's happened. I wonder what's happened here because it was meant to be 1 to 2 weeks. There must have been some sort of setback because he probably would have came into this week as a test. Could this be a thing of Fremantle being extra cautious, or maybe some what did Travis Clegg say? Smoke behind the mirrors.
I think Longmill could be pulling a bit of Chris Scott here, to be honest. Even in the report, all they say is progressing well as the club collects more information on the hamstring issue. So this says that it could even be more than 3 weeks, and they're not entirely sure. So yeah, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. He's out running laps, which is generally a good sign, but if he still looked pretty proppy. So I don't think they're going to rush him back anytime soon. So he's definitely, if you held like I did, and did you end up holding, or you traded him out last week from memory?
I did trade last week. So a bit of, once again, more bad luck for coaches out there. So two to 3 more weeks does make it a bit harder to hold for any coaches out there. But we will go through some of the replacements as well and what people could do with Hayden Young.
Absolutely. But yeah, definitely a few things you can do with Hayden Young's cash, and especially on top of some of the major injuries that we've had this week. For Geelong, nothing crazy to report other than Dangerfield going down, but there's nothing too crazy here. Warple's a test to come up this week, so we'll see how that goes. Gold Coast, of course, our unfortunate main man is Track going out for 4 to 6. Unfortunately, is a trade, so do with him what you will. We'll obviously talk further about how you can pivot from Track into potentially a midfielder, or if you're stuck in the forward line, who you can look at. There's a lot of options available, but 4 to 6, definitely a trade out. Rouse still 1 to 3, and I believe in the time between me recording my video near 45 minutes ago to now, they've even updated it again. It just said 4 to 6 earlier this afternoon. They've updated Rouse to be 1 to 3 weeks, so
1 to 3
could be 1 to 3 for Rouse.
That could be anything.
It could be. It absolutely could be. And unfortunately for Bailey Humphrey, he's suspended until round 6. So if you were looking at him as a bit of a smoky in the forward line, you're going to have to hold off on that one. Jumping into the Giants, nothing too crazy outside of Bedford is a test. So for those looking at a potential Dacos VC, one to keep in mind. Does he have the capacity to come off a hamstring injury and run with Dacos? Probably not. So I'd be very shocked to see him try to run with him.
You'd want to be very well recovered.
Absolutely not. And you don't want to come back in after a hammy and go, your first job's Dacos. It's not a great start. The only one, because there was some noise about him in preseason, is Brett Daniels is a test as well for this week, but there would be a lot of caution if you were considering, given he is also made a paper. Nothing in regards, at least to my knowledge, you might be able to speak more on this. Your boys, Hockball, nothing too crazy. Will Day's still months away. Huswaite's 1 to 2. Nothing
Huswaite
too crazy.
1 to 2. Don't think many people would know. James Blank's still on the list. He's listed indefinitely with a groin problem. Will Day has been labelled 2 months, so that's with that one. And then a young rookie for Hawthorn, Matthew Leray, is a test. Nothing all that relevant, which is usually the case regardless with Hawthorn and SuperCoach. But not much to report.
Lovely. We're going to skip a couple of teams because there's nothing too relevant. There is a bit of noise about Xavier Taylor potentially getting a look into the best 23 side. But again, until we see team sheets, there's really not much to put on for that. I will say notables at North Melbourne, Wardlaw, Spargo, and Hardiman are all fit and looking to make their way back into best 23. Does this potentially cause concern for Blamir's job security? There's a nice 99k rookie we picked up who's doing seemingly well from a scoring perspective, going to make plenty of cash, but some questions appearing around that job security.
Yep.
Moving into Port, main two notables, one being our man, Rosie, doing, we have a TBC, so we expect it to be months. I believe it was a high hamstring tendon tear straight off the bone.
Yeah, I think it's the worst one you can get.
Yeah. So it's not ideal. Not ideal. Absolute trade out. Do whatever you can to get him out of your team, get a nice replacement. And one to boast Watkins in this as well is Bergman's out from 1 to 2, even though he has seemingly be spending more time in defense as well. But Rosie out, Bergman out, Wine's coming back into the side, you'd imagine. I think Watkins is a relatively safe pick for now from a job security perspective, but maybe limit your expectations from a scoring potential on field. But we did see some promising signs once Rosie was out from a CBA attendance mixture in that last quarter. So little things to kind of take note when, again, unfortunately, if you didn't have Murdoch and you waited, we don't have to grab him now because we can wait for him to come back on the bubble. So we're most likely pivoting towards either a Cook or a Watkins. So I think both are fine.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add around Port for Rosie's injury before we jump into the final couple teams?
Oh, sorry. What was the question?
Is there anything you want to add to the Port injury news? Rosie specifically?
Yeah, well, he clearly has to go. I think one thing I will mention with Connor Rosie and Christian Petrarca, as the majority of coaches out there will be looking, the majority of coaches will have them in their team, is that if there's an option from the Dogs, Swans, Suns, or Hawks next week that you prefer over some of the other 14 teams, then I think it's fine to either hold one of them or use one of them to fully downgrade to a Watkins or a Cook and use that money elsewhere. There might be some other options that you prefer from those 4 teams, and I think that is perfectly fine. So you could look at a Nick Blakey or Callum Mills. I've got a feeling one of them will be really good this year, and can't decide between the two, but they're probably my favourite options from the round 3 bye for next week. But yeah, just to reiterate with coaches out there, I think it's perfectly fine if you want to either hold or trade them both and use and prioritize the rookies. I think that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's going to be interesting to see how teams pivot. We were complaining, or at least there was some concerns about cookie cutter teams towards the start of the year, and
we were both complaining.
we were both complaining, and then just by happenstance, it looks like for the most part, we may be potentially looking at different squads. Only 2 rounds in, that kind of dismantled that whole theory now. So yeah, one to watch. Moving on with the injuries, Richmond, nothing too crazy to talk about other than Nate Curvis doing a hamstring, 6 to 8 weeks out. This essentially gives opportunity for Ollie Hayes-Brown, a rookie option, to come into the squad, as they don't really have anyone else with injury. But one that I think everyone should be keeping on their radar is Lafau, who has been known to be second ruck all preseason. So there is, and we saw him go up in the ruck in the remainder of the game as well. So one to watch. He will be not on the bubble this week, but the week following. So keep your eyes on him. He might be a good forward option for us at a relatively decent price.
Yep.
For the Saints, nothing too crazy here. McRae's still 2 weeks away. Outside of that, the most recent one's Cabaniti, which, if anything, this may indirectly boost some job security for Carroll if he does enough, but I think we're all kind of just expecting Carroll to get dropped at any point.
Yeah, we're holding on for dear life this pick. We're glad that Ross doesn't mind.
As long as he's named, he's in the team at this point. Moving into Sydney, again on the bye for this round, so nothing too crazy to worry about, but Heaney is listed as a test, so he's definitely taking the rest of this week. I would not be surprised if he cruises this week, does a test again next week, and if they need to rest him, they absolutely will. But Gordon, 3 to 4 months. That was last week's shambles. West Coast, really the main one for us is the unfortunate Murdoch. If you went early, you made the right call. There's a lot of debate of Captain Hindsight's jumping in and going, this is why I don't go early. The right call was to go early. You got some very serviceable scores. You just got unlucky with the injury.
Yeah, I could understand it both ways. Like, I think it's totally fair if you did want to wait that extra week, because just for the extra security in making sure that rookie is totally fine. But I think there's also the mixture at the same time where if I had to make that decision again, I would do it. Like, I think there's like a 0.5% chance of that happening. And it's just unfortunate for coaches out there. If you started, then that's awesome. You had the round 1 score, round 2 score, and you didn't have to use a golden trade. Very stiff for the trader inners. And then for those not worrying about, or we're looking to get him in for this week, you worry about in 2 to 3 weeks' time, whenever he comes back, that's when you look to get him in. So not the news we wanted to hear, but it's just we've probably been thrown so many curveballs so far this season to where I don't know about you, rookie, but I just laughed. Like, I genuinely just laughed at when I saw the news. I was just, of course it had to happen. So
absolutely.
A lot of unlucky coaches out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's that unfortunate lady luck that decided to take 8 hamstrings in round 2. Total of 8 hamstrings. Crazy. but
How good are the new
it's
rules?
oh yeah, lovely for the game. The
Love the
only
game of
thing,
tennis.
yeah, legit. The only other thing to note for West Coast is Harry Edwards is in concussion protocol and will probably have a stint on concussion protocol because it's his second in a span of 3 weeks, I believe. Which could potentially open up a spot for Lindsay to come back. They have Maric as well that could potentially take that spot, but all eyes on team sheets to see if Lindsay comes back.
And I think another thing from last time I checked Twitter, I just remember seeing with West Coast injury news as well that Liam Baker in the last few minutes came up a bit sore with his ankle. He seems fine, so no need to be scared with that. Then probably another bit of interesting news is Brandon Starcevic moved from 2 to 3 weeks to be confirmed. So that's not ideal for his calf situation as well. So West Coast love throwing the ins and outs every week. So we're hoping
Absolutely.
for a Lindsay return for anyone that kept him.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one that I think you can hold quite comfortably, can be an okay loop option outside the buys. But I think we will be seeing him again, or at least fingers crossed that we will. And then
I
last but not
agree.
least, Western Bulldogs. The only notable here is Libba, 2 to 3 weeks, obviously on the bye this round. Trelaw's coming through VFL, even on restricted minutes in the VFL. If anything, when the Dogs come back to versus the Dons in round 4, we probably expect to see a little bit of a rise in Richard's scoring output more than anything. Maybe Frazier gets some more midfield time with Libba going down. Few things to keep in mind.
Oh, Richards will certainly be bouncing back against those
Surely.
idiots.
Surely. Sorry, Cheese, if you're watching.
Oh, sorry, Cheese. There is much love over here on the trade desk for you. Mate, you did a fantastic job. I could have done that 100 times and not done it as well as you have. So good stuff. That's why we got him in. For any of the doubters out there, this is why we got the coach in, the rookie in. So he absolutely clutched up there. All right. Let's go through the 10 most traded and most traded out players. One thing I noticed the other day, my SuperCoach Gold subscribed yesterday. I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Guess I'm going to have to sort that out. So we made sure that it was all good for this week's recording. Just one thing. So we'll go through some of the names. One thing I wanted to touch back on with Josh Lindsay, I think if he's not named again, I think it's fine for coaches out there if they need to do a little rookie correction. And if you're trading a red dot for a green dot who's about to go up in price, I think that is okay because I'm happy to give him this week's team sheets. But if he's not named, then I think I might be moving on. But it's certainly situation dependent. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is the
Absolutely.
most situation dependent round of all, to be honest.
Definitely is.
All right, so we'll go through some, if not all the names here for the most traded out. As we have clarified here, Connor Rozee and Christian Petrarca. Connor Rozee out for 3 months. We won't be seeing him until after Port Adelaide's mid-season bye, that's for sure. And then Christian Petrarca out for 4 to 6 weeks. As I said earlier, I think it's okay to hold one of them if you absolutely need to. But just make sure that you reorganize that money next week because we want to be getting points back on field. But this week, I think it is perfectly fine if you want to prioritize cash generation and getting the right rookies as well.
Agreed.
So, yep, do with that what you will. We'll talk through some options in a sec. Dyson Sharp, we did mention that with the injuries, he is a test to play this week. But now with a break even of 15, the role is bad. The time on ground's bad. The team is bad. I just don't think there's going to be much money coming his way anytime soon. I would have thought, Rook.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because if he does get up for and is named, it does make it a little bit tricky if he's going to be good to go. But even when he was good to go, was he really getting the opportunity under Brad Scott to be serviceable for us as a rookie at an elevated price to of 149? And if you take him down to a Watkins, for example, you open up a little bit of cash. So 50K
Yeah.
straight away in your pocket to throw on top of like a track, for example, to get to over 600. So if you wanted to go to a Holmes, for example, you very can easily do that and have some pretty serviceable scores on both ends. I think it makes sense if you want to jump off. If you really have other problems, then sure, you could probably hold for one more, but it's the long game now. If you want to keep sharp, you're hoping he has a spike game and resets his break even to make cash.
Just wanted to double check. Yeah, okay. We can talk about him in the most traded. And I wanted to talk to you about Worrell, but we'll get to that. Number 4 is Hayden Young. We did tell you about the extended 2 to 3 weeks. Was meant to come into this week potentially as a test, if not 1 week away. It's now been extended from to 2 to 3 weeks. So that makes it even more, just that little bit more trickier for coaches that did hold. I thought it was perfectly fine if you wanted to hold, because, I mean, not to predict that injuries were going to come the following week, but 1 to 2 weeks, if it's any other, if it's the majority of other players not named Hayden Young, I think for most scenarios, this is a fair enough hold. But unfortunately, with Hayden Young, I know we will we'll talk about our trades personally at the very end, but I know might be looking to move off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there was some merit. Obviously, looking into before round 2 happened, before the chaos, there was probably a little bit of security in holding him to wait to trade into a round 2 player off their bye rather than trade into a player with a bye, which I know was probably some of the main merits in holding him. But alas, we couldn't predict where he's your track going down or this getting extended by another 3 weeks potentially. So welcome to SuperCoach, I guess.
Yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you what, rookie. I think I've timed this series pretty well, because I just cannot recall this chaotic of a start in quite some time. It's usually a bit more even now, a bit more balanced. Maybe it might be a Golden round 3, a Rosie round 8, a Petrarca round 11. But as this is the most important week of trading, we've just been jam packed with all these premiums looking to trade. And unfortunately for a lot of us, we're just not making progress with our team, are we?
No, we're very much in a standstill with all these because we were hoping to, potentially even get, if we wanted to do a correction from mid-price madness to more guns and rooks, this was the opportunity to try and get that all sorted. And it's, essentially just turned into, oh, I just need my 2 primos back. I need to maintain where I'm at instead of, potentially restructuring. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that could have gone our way. And unfortunately, it's gone quite the opposite.
Absolutely. Number 5 here, we got Leo Lombard. I think there are bigger concerns than Leo Lombard. Disappointing day. That can happen with young small forwards. I think Lombard will be fine. We get to see team sheets next week if he is or isn't named, and maybe we can reassess. But I don't think one bad game is going to instantly take him out of the team. But Gold Coast do have such a good bunch of depth in their VFL. But I would have thought we got bigger priorities than Lombard. Rookie, use him as a loop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's I see why. Like I've watched both his games and I'm not at all impressed. And it's actually quite funny seeing him try to take on the comp and fumble it in both games. Not just the first game, but also last game. It's entertaining to say the least, but from what we need from a rookie, not optional. But yeah, for this week, I think we've got plenty of other issues to go for and sort out. I think Lombard is fine to hold on to. And if he maintains a spot in that roster, again, despite the depth that they have, like he could turn it around. He's got all the ingredients there. Like he just needs a good swing at it, and I think he'll be fine. 1 spike score again, very similar to a Sharp, and he's reset his BE and makes cash. Yeah, not this week's issue, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And I think from what I've noticed, he's sprinkled in a little bit of too much arrogance in his game a bit. on mate Leo, young kid, but just get back to the basics, mate, and you'll be doing just fine. Number 6, we sort of talked about Josh Lindsay. It's fine if you want to hold moving forward because he will play more than one game this year. I can guarantee you that. But if you're desperate to redirect some rookies around on your bench or on field, then I think it's fine if you want to move off him if not named this week.
Absolutely.
Tom DeConning's a bit of an odd one. I don't know how to interpret this. I think now it's a little bit trickier because of the price drop now, and with Marshall in the team. But at the same time, you've got guys like Rosie and Petrarca for most coaches to worry about, even along the lines of a Hayden Young as well, or even an Errol Goulden if people decide to hold and they weren't happy with the options last week. That's perfectly fine. How do you decipher between these injured players and then maybe a guy like a Tom DeConning where you know he's just bleeding cash? Do you just have to wait for that price to go back up?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the trade out. I imagine most people are trying to use the cash, what's left at least, to get into Big X or a Luke Jackson. I see the vision. However, given the chaos, if he is playing and healthy, you have to hold him. He's not always going to be bad and score a 45. We know what he's capable of. I don't think that is what we should expect. But in this week at least, yes, he's going to bleed cash. I'd say strap in. Hold on to him.
Yeah, I think this has to be a hold. I think there are bigger priorities out there. He's not going to be a 45 bad, and he's going to be able to turn around. But I think he just played bad over the weekend, and still at the CBA is perfectly fine. So I think I would be leaning towards a hold and wait for that price to go up just a little bit, and target off some other options a bit later. Goulden, we can very quickly touch on. Goulden, if you didn't like the options last week, that's fine, but definitely use his money and get off him as he won't be back probably until finals, to be honest. And then we can package these two together, Caleb Windsor and Lockie Blackiston, both in very similar sort of spots here. Blackiston and Windsor both have pretty good roles. Windsor getting 50 to 60% CBAs every week. Blackiston is the number one ruck, and you'd think with both those roles, that is golden. Unfortunately, they haven't fully hit their straps yet, but very similar break-evens, very similar price tags. I think the major concern when it comes to these mid-prices, in my opinion, is when the break-even starts to get a little bit higher than what you would have liked. But with all the other carnage we have to deal with, Windsor with a 40 break-even, I think that's fine. And then Blackiston's a little bit tougher because of the difficult matchup. But again, a 43 break-even, at least he's always going to be around the ball. So there's always that chance. Could he just sneak an 80? Could he outrun Cherry in certain transition situations? That would be a bit of copium for coaches out there with him. Would you? I wouldn't classify this as priority, but would you just say this is a hold till needed?
I'd say you hold for one more. Like, if you probably have 2 injuries. Like Rosie and Drac were very highly owned, and you need to think about cash gen. There's no way you're looking at a Windsor or Blackiston to trade out. As you mentioned, their break evens are very well reachable unless they get injured. But like, I think if you have Blackiston, I have Windsor personally, but if you have Blackiston, if he just cleans up his freeze against, he's good. He's serviceable. Because that's the only thing that really, like, both back-to-back games, like, there were a fair few frees against him that really killed his scoring potential. He doesn't need to do too much to, like, if he gives you a 60, 70, you take it and run. Absolutely take it and run. A 6-7? You absolutely take it and run, because there'll be more options next week. You'll have hopefully less carnage next week. And then you have the luxury of being able to go, okay, I'm going to take a Parrish and Blackiston if Parrish doesn't step up this week, and move into maybe a Cook or a baby Sherry from Freo. There's things that you can look at. This week's not the week to trade them, in my opinion. You absolutely, again, very much to a DeConning. You strap yourself in and you hope for the best.
You just have. I think that's a lot of coaches' situations at the minute. Just hope and pray, and hope that things can turn around for us, as we probably deserve it with the way we've been treated by the gods. Let's move into the most traded in players. Now, there's going to be a couple of picks here that I'm really going to package together. So we can first package up with the most traded in player, Dan Houston and Josh Worrell together, as Dan Houston specifically is coming off his bye at 431,000. Josh Worrell didn't have an early bye or anything, played the normal round one, and he's looked really good. I'd like to discuss here with Worrell first, rookie. I actually really like the pick, and I think in most scenarios I would be looking to have a gaze at him. But with the injuries that we've had, the test on the calf really worries me, and not because he's an injury-prone player, but we've just need to lower our risk at the minute, given our situation. I think Worrell's okay if you're willing to take the risk and all that sort of thing. I think he's a good pick, but does that put you off Josh Worrell just as that main reason if you're not going to go there?
It definitely helps paint the picture. It's a combination of those things. I think he'll be fine, but it's also at that price. He's not really, and same for Houston. They're not really a stepping stone. Like you're probably hoping for a D6 out of them if you're picking them to hold you through. For Worrell specifically, how good are you on that round 12 bye? Because I know for me personally, if I'm looking at, we've got Sheasel, you've got Saints, then if you were bringing in a Sherry this week, like there's a lot of movements that happen. Can you facilitate a Worrell for that round 12 bye? And that's like the big picture. So for me, that's more why I like Houston. One thing for Houston against a Worrell as well, we haven't seen this before from Worrell. We've seen good, decent 80s to 90s and some spike scores, absolutely. But consistently, we haven't seen it before, and we're betting on opportunity with the injuries at Adelaide to maintain that opportunity for him throughout the season. Whereas Houston, we've seen it before in the right role pretty consecutively. So there's probably a little bit more trust in the Houston, but I still think if you are sold on Worrell, absolutely still go him. Obviously, make sure that he is named and is playing. Limit expectations. It's a short turnaround for Adelaide as well at Alphabet Stadium, which is my home ground, the GMHBA. But I still think he's a great pick. He'll be fine.
Yeah, and we certainly hope so, because hopefully reaps the rewards for coaches out there. Dan Houston, a couple of things that makes me really like the pick. I know some people are a little concerned. I'm actually a massive fan. I guess two things that I've noticed is Collingwood are making a lot more of an effort to get the ball in his hands, which they should have done last year, but it's fine for us super coaches. We get him cheaper. Second of all, Collingwood's ball movement, I think, is the main difference. It's so much different than last year. They're fine with taking these uncontested marks around the back line, chipping it away. It is a big difference with their style. And I think this is going to lead to really strong fantasy scoring and SuperCoach scoring for Collingwood this season. If they continue to go this way, if they instantly shifted it, I'd still like the Houston pick, but that's part of the reason I'm quite keen on a few of the Collingwood defenders, even like a Josh Dacos, all that sort of stuff, if they're moving this way. You can have a look at the Howe and Moore situation as well, but I think at 431K, he's got the previous history. The game style is suiting him a lot more than last year. Is he I'm not going to say favorite, but is he like one of your top tier premium replacement options for a couple of these injured premiums?
Absolutely. I think there's there's enough there to build some confidence that Rosie wasn't shooting lights out for us as well. Let's not forget.
No.
He was getting some more midfield than what we really anticipated and was on ball. Like we expected a halfback Rosie, we got more of a midfield Rosie. So he wasn't shooting the lights out to the point where I think Houston could quite easily, if what we suspect is true with the role and the way Collingwood are moving their ball, quite easily match that for 430k. Like, it makes a lot of sense to go here. They're off their bye. They're going to carry you through the rest of them. Yeah, like the whole story is there. Like, Flyers come out and said that they're looking to use him at all times, to navigate and command that ball in the back line. Again, as you said, the transition game and the shifting that we're moving to, and then the fact that they've shifted to more of a chip and a cheap ball, uncontested ball, despite that, means that they're really wanting to play like keepings off and have control in such
And
a
more
speedy
chance
game.
of good disposal efficiency as well
Absolutely.
for vice defenders going forward.
Absolutely. So I think there's enough there that if you were off the pick and you wanted to go Worrell, you're still right. If you wanted to lean into Houston, you're still right. I don't think you could I think you're pulling at straws almost at this stage. I'm favouring Houston just from the perspective of he's done it before. I have a little bit more confidence.
Yep. I 100% agree, and I think he is going to be a popular target to replace Connor Rozee this week. And then let's package. Now, I really want to chat to you about Max Holmes, and we're going to package Max Holmes and Nick Daicos in. For me personally, I think they are my two personal favourite options for premiums overall. I think the transition game, I think us coaches would like to be aiming for those transition type midfielders for our midfield to fill out this year. I think Daicos and Max Holmes suit them to an absolute T. So I'd like to talk to you about Max Holmes. I really like the pick. What can you sell us on Max Holmes?
I think there's an element of natural progression boosted by the new play of game. We saw him really kind of take that leap last season. Now, mind you, the only drawback we really had on Holmes last season was when he got tagged to a 75. And it was kind of like almost a Noah Anderson from 2024, where you'd have really high spikes, but you'd have some pretty poor lows if he got tagged. Again, transition game, benefit. Also, listening to presses and comments and everything out of the category, Holmes has been specifically working with Buckley to work through tags. So he's learning the craft of breaking tags. And when he does get a tag, they're most likely sending him to the halfback to take kick-ins. So you've got the two most optimal scoring roles in SuperCoach that are essentially this guy's tools in the shed. If he's getting tagged to the midfield and he can't do the outside run that we're used to him doing, they're just going to send him in the halfback and get him on kicking duty. Or is this receiver to run up the wing at lightning speed that he does and gain 600 meters in 5 minutes, because he can do that apparently because he's an absolute genetic freak. I don't think there's a take that you can have on Holmes where he doesn't seem like a optimal trade in this week, unless the only clause there is if you don't have Daicos.
Yeah, and for me personally, in my situation, I unfortunately have to choose between one of them. If I had the choice, I would have gone both, but I probably will be going Nick Daicos this week, but I will be making quite an effort to be getting my hands on Max Holmes. But for the people out there, if you don't have a Nick Daicos, then I'd probably prioritize him over Holmes. But if you've got Daicos and you're looking for a replacement, I think Max Holmes is probably on par just about for me with Dan Houston as my favourite two replacements for a Petrarca and Rozee, if possible, via DPP, or if you've got an Errol Goulden or a Hayden Young, whatever the case may be. I think there's going to be coaches out there with cash in the bank, willing to splash, and I think Max Holmes is a brilliant option.
Absolutely.
We have touched maybe just a couple of quick ones. Shea Bolton, we've sort of mentioned, like, we just can't trust.
Run away.
Point chasing exercise a tiny bit here. The CBAs are interesting. I think it was 71% against Melbourne over the weekend, but If you like Luna Park, then maybe you might like Shea Bolton, because there's going to be
Absolutely.
this probably won't be his best score of the year. There's going to be a 150 somewhere, but there's also going to be a 45 somewhere. So it's just the tolerance you have with those type of picks. But I think advice from me personally would be, I'd try my best to just stay out of the forward line for the time being. And if you're looking for a Petrarca replacement, I'd almost just go down to Cook. I don't know about you. I just don't like the forwards this week.
Yeah, it is one of those things. I think Cook's a fine replacement for Track if you're stuck in the forward line and you're really limited with any flexibility in the team. Like, say, for example, you've already run in a 3 ruck situation. You got McAndrew stuck in flex and you can't really do much. I think Cook's fine if you're really hot on some of the guys coming off the round 3 bye. If you really want to target Freo specifically, you go Reed. You don't go Bolton. If anyone's going to have more ceiling and consistency in score, it's going to be Reed, who will get a bump in CBAs, from my understanding at least. Don't look at Bolton.
But also, even if Murphy Reed doesn't get the CBAs, he could have that Dylan Moore kind of role where he just pushes up as a high half forward and can
Absolutely.
do that 90 to 95 range. So I've been very impressed with him over the past couple of weeks. I think probably I would prefer an optimal role, so it just makes it a little bit harder for Murphy Reed with that high half forward. But I think I'd prefer him over Bolton. Another quick one. I'm not a fan of trading in players a week before their bye. Would you recommend Ash over a couple of these others?
Oh, look, I see the reason for wanting to get Ash. He's got a 70 break even. He's probably due to have another high ceiling score against Collingwood. You want to jump on before his price goes back up. If you're okay for that buy, I don't mind the play, because it is very much a cash play. And you've gone, okay, I'm tossing up to Whitfield and Ash. Who should I target? Ash is clearly ahead. I'm going to go pick him, and he's cheaper than Whitfield. It makes sense. However, yeah, it just feels a bit icky. You're like, I get one game that he's on the bye. If you can, like, there's also no reason to say that Whitfield pops on Friday night instead of Ash. When you really think about it.
So.
I hope so too, because I got Whitfield on my team. It's about time.
Yeah,
I've got face.
He's doing my head in. But unfortunately, it looks like for me, from what I can see, GWS are prioritising Ash now over Whitfield.
Yeah.
So I think for any Whitfield owners out there, as long as he can be top 6, that is okay. But just a little bit of waste of money, which was unfortunate. And then a couple of other quick ones we can touch on. I think actually just one question. Watkins or Cook? I know we did a this or that with the rookies, but we didn't get to that situation. Who would you lean towards?
I think this needs to be part of a 2-week plan. If you need DPP to get Track out of the forward line and into the midfield, to then move him to someone off their round 3 bye, you get in Cook. Cook has very similar break even. They're going to be around the park. I think there's more job security in Cook than there is Watkins. Yes, Watkins is 99k and there's more cash to get instantly from the trade down. It makes sense. But I think if I'm locked into tracking the forward line and I want to make moves out of that, you target Cook if you can only get one. I started with Cook, and now with the news of Murdoch, I don't need to really stress on which rookie to pick, because I can just get Watkins now, and I have them essentially all before their bubble. But if you have to pick one, I would be favouring Cook. We've seen what he can do. He popped for a 92, 93 in essentially the role that Jones had last week, which is a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But it was, you kind of got to, at the price and the break even, you kind of got to go there. And if it gives you flexibility for a 2-week plan to get Track up to someone next week, I think it's just the smarter play. But if you've already got Cook and you don't have to worry about that, it's easily you just pick up Watkins, because he's just going to make the cash. There's really no question about it.
Yep, I absolutely back that in. And then just one final quick one on sorry, I haven't touched up on him. But Milan Murdoch, just for anyone out there, he has been ruled out for 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, with a hamstring. So just make sure you reverse that before bringing before the deadline. which is Sunday, so you got plenty of time, but just don't trade him in. And then just lastly, Tristan Cherry, you did say that you were going to think about bringing him in potentially over the next couple of weeks. What's real and what's not real with Cherry? Is this what we can expect? Not 199 average Tristan Cherry, but can we sort of expect a bit of? Is there a medium here? Is there some stats maybe potentially over skewing Cherry because of the two softer matches over the first couple of weeks, or is Tristan Cherry just gonna absolutely run amok still?
I think whatever story you really want to tell about the pick, it's going to be true. If you think he's going to regress at some point after soft fixtures, I think you're right. If he's going to hit 150k, I also think you're probably right. Like, I think everything can be possible with this pick. Because my pick is really, do I buy into Sherry for the reasons of he went on 122-24 and he played poorly. Like, he got outdone by Visitini in the centre bounce hit outs to advantage at least. And he's still managed a 124. He's just proven that his other avenues of scoring are very persistent and still there. If anything, there's probably been a bump up because of the way the game's played. It's just whether, are you going to buy into that, lock down your flex potentially? If you're trading out a primo ruck for Sherry, I wouldn't be doing that. I would say take it on the chin and keep plotting along. But if you've got a English and McAndrew at R2 like myself, do we want to lock down our flex positions to 3 rucks quite early? Now, if you have a big ZZ in your R3 position, there's probably a little bit more flexibility, but you're pushing McAndrew to R3, which probably isn't optimal considering the role and scoring potential that man has for us at the moment. I don't mind it. I also like to consider top 5% coach ownership. He's in like 76% of the teams there. So I kind of also look at it as a bit of a blocker that, like, if I look at if we think peak performance, peak game situation, who's going to do more damage, Sherry or Holmes?
Sherry at the end of the day. Yeah,
right?
like there's more consistency. You know what you're going to get more likely than not.
So you're going to hurt a lot more if you don't own Sherry and own Holmes versus if you don't own Holmes and own Sherry. Like, you're going to bleed a lot more not having Sherry, in my opinion, which is why he's probably very highly targeted already from the trading perspective. But again, if you went with like a Gawn and a Jackson or an English and a Jackson, your only option is to move McAndrew into R3, and I would not consider that as a play at this stage. I'd go pick up a Holmes, pick up a Dacos, target your Bont next week. You've got other avenues, and if it works for your team, it works for your team. You don't have to break down your team for one player, which is probably my only point why I'm not 100% sold on the pick just yet. It's what I've done so far is to get Sherry in, but I'm also a Cattery boy. I'm a Geelong boy. It's hard for me to pass up on Holmes.
I don't blame you, and I think for me, if you do want to go down the Cherry route, that's totally fine for the coaches out there. But I'm just going to be echoing what Rookie said. Like, if you've already got 2 premium rucks, I wouldn't go to 3 and lock that flex up for the entire season. Essentially, there's going to be some other. There could be some other ruck options going forward. So I think it's fine if you want to have 2 premium rucks, which includes Sherry and maybe a McAndrew at flex. I think that's absolutely fine. But if you're already running, as you said, a Gawn and English or whatever, I just wouldn't go to 3 rucks premium. All right, so those are the most traded out players. Any other quick notes regarding other options? I mean, I get. There's not really. I think we've really touched on the main guys. You can always leave us a comment down below. We will wrap up this with this or that premium edition to wrap up things with Rookie. It's an absolute pleasure to get him on board for this. So this or that, but we're doing it premium wise. So he will land on ideally his favorite option for premiums this week. This or that premium. Aaron Norton or Marby or Chol?
Not Chol. Those who know, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Ballers. Joel, love it. Marby or Chol or Caleb Daniel?
Oh, Joel.
Marby or Chol or Callum Wilkie?
Wilkie.
Callum Wilkie or Brian Myers?
Myers.
Brian Myers or Isaac Rankin?
Ooh, Rankin.
Rankin. Isaac Rankin or LDU?
LDU.
LDU or Dane Zorko?
LDU.
LDU or Lockie Neal?
Neil.
Neal. Lockie Neal or Zach Merritt?
Neil.
Lockie Neal or Bailey Smith?
Smith. Come on now.
Yeah. Bailey Smith or Sam Walsh?
Walsh.
Sam Walsh or Josh Dacos?
Walsh.
Sam Walsh or Max Holmes?
Oh, Max Holmes. Absolutely.
Max Holmes or Luke Jackson?
Holmes.
Max Holmes or Nick Dacos?
Oh, Nick Dacos. That hurts.
And final one, Nick Dacos or Tristan Cherry?
Oh, no. I'm going to go Dacos.
King Nick. King Nick
King
is
Nick.
the best premium replacement for Petrarca and Rosie out there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Rookie, absolute pleasure, mate.
Nah, it's been great. It's been good to be back on the channel. I know we did a little bit of stuff last season with some live streams, so it's good to get back on and get on the trade desk and hopefully met the standards of that George set for the season.
No, mate, you absolutely have. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Rookie Coach on. Let me know in the comments down below who you'd like to see for next week's guest. And make sure you check out Rookie, of course. Any questions you've got regarding trades, we're happy to respond to them. Any updates, we will put in the comments as well. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you when we see you. Have a good one.
Catch you guys.